Your support helps us bring you programs you love. Go to wyomingpbs.org, click on Support, and become a sustaining member or an annual member. It's easy and secure. Thank you.
Main Street, Wyoming is made possible in part by grants from Kennecott Energy, proud to be a part of Wyoming's future in the uranium exploration, mining, and production industry, and by the Wyoming Council for the Humanities, enriching lives of Wyoming people through the study of Wyoming history, values, and ideas.
A
lot of what I'm doing or where I'm going in my life is based around our spiritual ways. I want to try to be able to follow those ways, and it'll make me a better person, so I can help my people out a lot.
I'd like to come back and teach the kids, as soon as I learn to bring back my culture, come back and teach the culture back to the kids again, bring it back, because it's like everybody's losing it, losing our culture. Sometimes we don't know who we are.
In 1868, the Fort Bridger Treaty Council created the Wind River Reservation. Chief Washakie, the tribal leader of the Shoshones who were to live on the reservation, asked that it not be described in longitude and latitude, but in what he knew, from the crests of the Wind River Range to the Owl Creeks and bordered by the Paposia River. That became the Wind River Reservation. I'm Deborah Hammonds, and on Main Street, Wyoming today, we're at Fort Washakie Elementary School. We're here because we want to find out what it's like to grow up on the Wind River Reservation. Over 50% of the people on the reservation today are under the age of 24. But before we can begin to understand what it's been like for them to grow up, it helps to hear what it was like for their parents and grandparents. Pius Moss was born in 1914. He's been everything from a boss farmer to an Arapaho language and culture instructor, to a tribal judge. Mr. Moss suffered a stroke a couple years ago, and words are difficult at times, but the memories of his childhood remain strong.
My dad, he was a kind man, and he helped everybody because he was an Indian doctor.
Pius's father helped him develop his talent for speaking. The Arapaho way to powerful words was by transforming with a meadowlark, the bird known for its distinctive call.
So he cooked this meadowlark, and after cooking it, we ate it.
When Pius was 5, his mother died. He was sent to St. Stephen's, one of the boarding schools on the reservation.
I loved my mother, so you just can't fathom the love I had for my mother.
His school day memories are those shared by generations of Arapaho and Shoshone children.
They cut my hair in case they shaved it completely off, just down to the skin, And for so long, those that had the wrongdoing, well, they kept their hair shaved. Speaking Arapaho was no good. It was no good off the side and everything like that. So, and we spoke Arapaho in order to keep from being punished. And some of us did get punished, all right, but that's the way it was in the change of language.
Pius soon learned that if he was caught speaking Arapaho 4 times, he would not be allowed to go home.
I made it a point that if I wanted to go home, I just better stay on a good side and get home. Every Sunday we went home for, say like Mass was at 10 o'clock. Then right after Mass was a dispersal of kids. Each one of them had a horse or wagon or what, and they went home. But they got to be back at 6 o'clock that evening.
And as a young man planning his future, what had Pius wanted to be?
Well, that is no choice there. The choice was already given to a young person. You had to be a cowboy, or you had to be this, you had to be that. So that's the way it was. The person had to be so-so.
After his graduation from 8th grade, Pius remained at St. Stephen's.
As I was farming, I got to be a boss farmer. Big job, you know. So after so long of that, then I was a prefect, a disciplinarian among the boys.
Pius described the type of discipline his job required.
That one thing was a whip and a quirt to kind of say yes or no, you know. So anyway, that was no good, but I had to do it.
Pius retired from St. Stephen's in 1992 after 52 years' service. During that time, education on the reservation changed profoundly. The young boy, who feared he would not be allowed to go home if he spoke his native language, became the Arapaho language and culture teacher for St. Stephen's. Today, many of Pius's children and grandchildren are on land which adjoins his.
That woman I have now is good all the way through. She might think this way, she might think that way, but to me, she is number one all the way as far as I'm concerned.
Pius and his wife live now as they have for over 3/4 of a century, in view of the Wind River Mountains. Pius's daughter, Liz Brown, lives near her parents and helps her mother with the care of her father while she attends school at Central Wyoming College.
I can only talk for myself, and I can only tell you how it was for me to grow up on the reservation. It was very limited in the sense that we didn't have a lot of fancy cars. A lot of our families couldn't afford fancy cars. A lot of our families couldn't afford fancy houses to live in, but they were all accommodating vehicles and homes. And as far as my family, and myself and my family, we were very sheltered, or me and my siblings were very sheltered, and we didn't get to go a lot of places. We stayed around the house quite a bit, around the home area, and we learned a lot of things, home things, like we learned how to clean, we learned how to keep ourselves busy. Because of the area of the families, I think when I was younger, my closest relatives were about a mile away from us. So as far as going to play in their yard every day, it wasn't like over the fence. You know, we had to get on a horse, and my dad had horses then, so we'd get on a horse and ride to our relative's house, and we'd play with the cousins or family members there until maybe just before dark, and then we'd head home.
Liz remembers playing basketball, baseball, and working with her brother.
To like one time I got on this horse and our horses got out, and I wasn't too steady on that horse. I was bareback and I was just learning. So he told me, he said, "You're on a horse." He said, "You go after those horses that got out." And I told him, "No, you." He said, "No, you." And then he hit that horse's behind and he went, "Yeah!" He went like, that horse took off at 100 miles an hour. And then just so happened that when that event was happening, our horses stopped out there to feed. I guess they must have quit running or what. But this horse was going 100 miles an hour and he seen them horses, so he turned. He was the only one that turned. I kept going. So I hit the dust, you know. And
Liz also attended St. Stephen's School, but by her freshman year in high school, she realized that things were different for her brother and other boys than they were for her. She recalled her midnight curfew.
But sometimes I made it home and my brother didn't make it home. And when the morning would come, then my dad would look, and say, well, where's your brother? I said, well, he didn't make it home. And I would take his beating for him.
The double standard Liz encountered at home was repeated at school. In addition, St. Stephen's had become integrated. Liz was named valedictorian of her class in 1965, but with considerable effort.
And I thought that I shouldn't be discriminated against because I have the same potential as this other individual. But even though the potential was there, my skin color was different from that person. And my skin color kept me back. But my insides, my fortitude, my attitude, my initiative said, keep going. Keep going, no matter how thick that wall gets, keep going. And it got pretty thick to where my talents weren't even recognized. And I had to try extra harder to get around that wall. Sometimes we don't have control over who teaches us.
As a single parent, Liz works hard at raising her two daughters.
I try to praise them for little things that they do. My youngest, Jackie Ray, she'll bring home a coloring from school or her spelling words that she's got all right. And I'll praise her for that because that's quite an accomplishment. And my oldest daughter, if I have to be at a meeting or go away from the home for what, I leave her with 3 or 4 assignments to do. And when I come back, they're done. And I praise her for that. Because to me, that builds their confidence in themselves. It builds their ego. And it builds their responsibility. And it's no, I mean, I don't bring a band in or anything like that and say, I praise you. But I give them an extra treat to know that I appreciate whatever little accomplishment they had. And this is making up for the praise I didn't get when I was younger, that I can give it to my daughters now, the next generation.
As you drive across the Wind River Reservation, you see rural homes and farms spread far apart. Even the few towns and schools are among the smallest in Wyoming. John Washakie has served on the Tribal Council and was chairman of the Shoshone Business Council for 4 years. He graduated from high school in the 60s, served in Vietnam, and received his baccalaureate degree from the University of Wyoming.
When I grew up, my parents and my sisters lived in a very small 2-bedroom house. I have 4 other brothers, and we all stayed in a house that had a tent on top of it, slabs on the bottom and tent on the top, and we stayed there year-round. And it was our house. It was like a bunkhouse. We lived on Willow Creek, and it's about, I would say, about 7 miles off the highway. It's all dirt road, and because of the cars that we had then, and we didn't have a 4-wheel drive, it was basically 2-wheel drive cars or old pickups. Probably to get around in the wintertime in Wyoming, you needed something that was, capable of taking you to school. So as I was, I think, from about the 2nd grade to the 8th grade, I rode a Ford tractor those 6 miles to catch the bus and go home. It's so much different today. Give you an example. When I was growing up, boarding school, government school, I was in the 1st grade here at Fort Washakie. We was not allowed to say anything that was Shoshone. Our first act when we got to school was they checked our fingernails, they checked your head for lice, they seen if your clothes was clean, and
for any of the things that they felt, I guess, was within your control, you received X number of hits across the hands with a ruler. And if you happen to have lice or something like that, they took you down and they scrubbed your head. And so it's a lot different today going to public school. There seems to be a renewal or has been since about 1974 here of being proud to say you're Shoshone and being able to speak your language and being able to do things, many of the things that was denied to us. Our parents didn't teach us, my dad didn't teach us Shoshone because he didn't want us punished.
John described some of the influences from his youth that have helped make him who he is today.
I think it was a good work ethic that was established when I was young. And coming from a large family, you shared a lot and was able to. If you made some money, you usually shared it with your family or some of your close friends, and it seemed like I always had a job. I mean, since I was probably 13 years old, I had a job either stacking hay, building fence, some of the things that you can do, you know, for farm work and make some money. Later in the oil fields, I had some experience in the oil fields. And then I think it's that part of my life that kind of always pushes me. And then I have a real good family.
What's it like today growing up on the Wind River Reservation? We visited with a young woman from St. Stephen's and a young man from Fort Washakie to hear about their experiences. Maria Lawson is a senior at St. Stephen's High School. St. Stephen's has won national awards for educational excellence and drug education. Maria transferred here from Riverton High School.
Riverton, it's just too much trouble going to school there. I mean, I was always too shy to ask for help when I was like in class or something, and it seemed to me like most of the white kids were getting all the attention more than the Indian students. So I don't know, I think that's how I flunked, because I didn't really ask for help that much.
Maria attends school in the morning. In addition to the traditional classes found in high schools across Wyoming, St. Stephen's, like the other reservation schools, offers a culture and language class. Jeanette Bell is Maria's teacher and grandmother.
Parents, I was telling my parents, they want me to hang out with their kids because I keep them out of trouble and stuff, but I get in trouble myself, and I don't want to drag everybody else into the problems I get into.
Maria told us how she and her friends spend their spare time.
Well, if there's like powwows out at the halls or someplace, we'll go cruise around, check out the powwows, or if there's like basketball tournaments, men's and women's tournaments, I'll go, take my car and pick up my friends. We'll go check those out for a while. A long time ago, we used to play in the tournaments, but kind of got over it. Then when there's nothing else going on, we just like drive around, visit people, try to stay out of trouble. It's kind of hard staying out of trouble.
As a graduating senior, Maria is feeling the pressures of planning her future.
I'd like to come back and like teach the kids, as soon as I learn to bring back my culture, come back and teach the culture back to the kids again, bring it back. Because it's like everybody's losing it, losing our culture. And sometimes we don't know who we are. Well, I go to school in the mornings just till noon, and then sometimes I volunteer my work at the Even Start program at Rappel School, and then from there I just go to work from 2:30 to 6.
Maria, what's your afternoon job?
I'm a janitor at Rappel School. Before the season of basketball and volleyball was over, I was helping the coaches out. I was the assistant coach.
So that's part of the reason you'd like to do elementary teaching? You like that coaching, or?
Yeah, I like kids. I mean, I used to babysit a lot. Now that I'm working, I don't really need the extra money. I got a job. I can use that money for things I need. And, I have a lot of nephews and nieces, and just being around them makes me feel good.
What kind of things? Maria recalled being chosen to attend a conference in Washington, D.C. with students from across the country.
We were having a discussion hour, and these kids asked me, these black kids asked me, "Are you white?" And I said, "No." And they go, "What are you?" And I said, "Native American." And they go, "What tribe?" And I said, "Northern Arapaho and Oglala Sioux." And they're all, "Oh." And we didn't know if Indians still survived today. And I was like, "Oh, geez." It's kind of made me feel bad when they said that. And then again, it's kind of funny because they didn't know about it.
I asked Maria what she would want people to know about her and the other young people living on the reservation.
Probably that we're just the same as everybody else, and we're not any different than them, and we're not as bad as they seem, as they think we are. We're normal people too. That we got the same problems as they do, and they deal with it their own way, and we deal with it our way. And I don't know, just that we're all the same.
Jake Hill lives with his family outside the town of Fort Washakie. He was a student at the University of Wyoming, but recently returned home.
I lived down in Laramie for about 4 years. For about 2 years I lived on my own, and I had fun, but there's a homesick feeling I got after a while, and I just had to come home.
Jake has a job in Lander, but has other plans for his future.
Something that I want to do in the long run is be able to get on the police force, and maybe after all that's over, look back and say, well, at least I tried. If nothing changed, at least I tried and tried to do something.
Jake's memories of childhood begin with his grandparents.
When I was born, my grandfather really wanted to raise me, wanted to keep me, so my mom kind of worked that out with him, and she was going through her own thing and everything, so I just stayed with my grandparents most of the time. Well, I went fishing a lot, went out walking around the hills a lot, rode horse. Most of the time I went fishing, catch grasshoppers and go fishing. Used to go fishing with my uncle. He used to always take me fishing. Not as good as a fisherman as he is, though. Don't know all his little tricks.
Jake's grandfather died when Jake was young, but he remains a lasting influence.
When I was really little, I was probably only about up to his thigh, I guess, and he only had one leg. He'd lost one of his legs, and no matter what I did to him, I'd sit on his lap and, punch him out, and, he'd just play. And if I wanted to race him, I'd tell him, I could run faster than you can hop, and he'd race me, or I'd get underneath his leg and tell him I was his leg. My grandma would get mad at me for that, but I used to just do things like that. And now I like little kids, like to mess around with my nieces and nephews, wrestle around with them and play with them, because that's what I liked to do when I was little, beat up on the adults, and it was fun to me, so it must be fun to them. So I guess I kind of made it fun for me, to be able to like to be around children, so much, and not get so irritated with them.
After 8th grade, Jake lived in Utah with an LDS family as part of a program for Indian adolescents. But after a year, he returned home to the reservation and his grandmother and started getting into trouble.
One day, my grandmother just asked James if he would take me and raise me with his family. I don't know the reason for that. Maybe, she just knew that it would be the best for me. I could do something with myself, because she was in a wheelchair. My aunt wasn't, in the greatest of health, so she couldn't correct me like she used to, but, maybe she must have known about something, and she asked James if he would, and he said he'd ask his family, and he came over here and asked his mom and everybody else, the rest of his brothers and sisters, if what they thought, because he knew that he'd, need some help because he couldn't do it himself because he's so busy. And they said yes. After I moved with him, I got involved with sweats and things like that. Learning more and more about it instead of just being told about it. Like my grandparents did, getting out there and doing it. It's a totally different thing than being told about it, and that's where he's helped me out the most. And this whole family has, and I'm really thankful for that. I'm thankful for my grandmother for knowing that it would be best for me.
Jake described the sweats he attends and the importance they have for him.
The men aren't the only ones that can sweat. Our mom and my sisters and everybody, they go in there with us. We just go in there, and it's the time of prayer. You get to sit down and humble yourself, and pray for different things, for different people. For ourselves if we need it. That's a purification for us. It purifies us not only spiritually but physically. It draws out the impurities in our bodies. You come out, it's like you're being reborn again. It's a womb of our Mother Earth. We're being reborn again, getting a clean start again when we come out.
Jake dances at powwows, which are social celebrations in the summer, and participates with his family in sun dances, solemn spiritual ceremonies. James told us Jake has recently begun to sing. He shared this prayer with us.
And that's probably the most important thing to me, and probably to the rest of the Indian people out here on the reservation, is our Indian ways.
I asked John Washakie what would help us better understand the lives of the young people on the reservation and the families who are trying to raise them.
One of the greatest problems that we've had in the past is alcoholism. And I know that we're going to continue to struggle with that issue. The reservation here it looks like a wide open spot, and no places for kids to really collect at night and do things. We offer activities and that, but the reservation at night is alive if you know where to go. It's no different than a city. I mean, you just have to know where the action is. I think that we're getting to a point that we're very proud of who we are and the contributions that we can make, both to the community and to the state and to the nation. One of the things that could really help us is if they would just put a chapter in it on Wyoming history. I think visit us. We're the easiest people in the world to get along with. Anyone can come in and see and get to know us. I think we're great people.
Over 7,500 people are enrolled on the Wind River Reservation, and each of them has a separate story about what it's like to grow up here. 5 of them took the time to let us into their homes and to share their lives with us. Our thanks to them, and my thanks to you for joining us on Main Street, Wyoming.
Main Street, Wyoming is made possible in part by grants from Kennecott Energy, proud to be a part of Wyoming's future in the uranium exploration, mining, and production industry, and by the Wyoming Council for the Humanities, enriching lives of Wyoming people through the study of Wyoming history, values, and ideas.